everyone, and welcome to the show today. This is Sociology Today at the University of West Georgia. I'm your host, Tracy Martin, and today's topic is spanking. What do you think about spanking? So we are going to start the show with a young married couple. This is Keaton and his wife, Tiana, and they've been married for 2 years and are thinking about starting a family and are having some disagreements about spanking and what they think about spanking. So welcome, both of you.
Hi there. Thanks for having us.
Hi. Thanks for being on the show today. So I want to start out by getting a little bit of information about you guys. Are newly married.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And you're thinking about starting a family. Okay. So you are really not able to agree on whether or not you plan to spank your kids. And so we have some experts today, and we're going to let you guys hear from them. But first, I want to hear from you, and I wanted to ask you some questions really quickly. Keaton, how old are you?
I'm 22.
And Tiana, how old are you?
I'm 21.
And neither of you have children already. All right, great. And were you both spanked as children?
Yes.
You were spanked. Tiana, were you spanked?
I was.
Tiana, really quickly, tell me a little bit about your history with spanking. How would you describe your spanking? Were you spanked regularly? Were you spanked with an object? Were you spanked with your mom or dad's hand? Just give me a little bit of history.
It was kind of all over. I would say hands, objects,
Okay.
things like that.
Sure. And Keaton, what about you?
I'd say a light swat in moderation. Wasn't spanked all the time, but when it was on occasion. Yeah, they didn't beat me with objects or anything, mostly just an open swat.
Sure. So the next thing I wonder about is, if I say spanking, what do you think of first? Do you think, is that a negative thing or is that a positive thing? Tiana?
I think it's a positive thing. I think spanking is it helps build character in a child.
Great. And Keaton, what about you?
Biggest things as a child, my parents would get on to me saying like, it's for your own good, you will learn someday. But even right now, I see it more as a negative thing on children.
Right, all right. If I asked you today, do you definitely plan to spank Keaton?
I would say no. I'd give it some thought, but yeah, I'd say no.
That's
Okay.
where we're having a problem. I would definitely swat. I would definitely use spanking as a form of discipline for my child.
Sure. All right, so then the next thing we want to do is we want to talk about some situations that you are parents and you are coming up against a situation where maybe one of your children have disobeyed you or they've broken something, and then each of you, if you'll tell me if you in that situation would spank. And Keaton, I'm going to read you the scenario first, and then I'll let you go first, and Tiana, you answer afterwards.
Okay.
So you come home and your little boy is playing with a truck, and he takes the truck very aggressively from his brother. Would you spank?
No.
Tiana?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the next scenario is you come home and you find that your phone is broken, and you find it under your little boy's bed. So you know that he's the person that's responsible for breaking the phone. He denies it, but you know that he's the only person that could have done it. Keaton, would you spank?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, Tiana, would you spank?
Yes.
All right, the next scenario is you come home after school and you ask your daughter to bring in the groceries. You've been out all day, you've been at work. She responds to you by turning around and she sticks her tongue out at you and says, "No, you do it, dummy." Would you spank? Keaton?
Yeah, probably.
All right, Tiana?
Absolutely.
All right. So the last scenario is you're outside with your kids and you've warned them that they're playing with a ball, and you've warned them that the way that they're playing is a little bit dangerous and you're afraid maybe they're going to break a window, or you've asked them to move, and in fact they do break a window. They break the windshield to your car. Do you spank? Keaton?
It's my car. I'd say I'd probably say no still.
Okay, so that's a no. And Tiana?
Well, since I've warned them about the situation, I would definitely spank them, yes.
So you would definitely spank them. So you both are considering spanking, but I can hear from what you're telling me that you have just a little bit of a difference in how much you're thinking about spanking and when you're going to spank. So in our next segment, we're going to introduce some experts who are two young ladies who have done a study on spanking, and they're going to have some great information for you about what they found out about other young people and what they think about spanking. So we'll introduce those when we come back. Thank you both very much for being here, and we're going to go to commercial break. Hi, and welcome back. We're so glad you're here today. After our commercial break, we spoke with Tiana and Keaton, and the next segment we're going to introduce you to two sociology students who are experts and have some new information for us about spanking. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you, Tracy, for having us here. We're two sociologists from the University of West Georgia. We are in Dr. Lee's methods class, graduates class, and we are here to talk about our research that we conducted. I'm Christian Chavez, and this is my colleague,
Candace Fan.
Welcome, Christian. Welcome, Candace. Ladies, first I want you, if you can, to tell our studio audience a little bit about what your research was. I know obviously today you're here we have a couple that's really confused about spanking, but our audience is new to methods of research, and so if you could tell me a little bit about how you get started. Who do you survey? Who do you interview? Christian, I'll start with you.
Well, we were originally interested in spanking, in discipline, spanking as a form of discipline. So we decided to conduct research methods on spanking and the attitudes of people on our college campus about spanking.
So what people think about spanking, how they feel about spanking, great. And tell me a little bit about the people that you were researching.
Let me give you a little bit of information about the demographics, and let me give you 3 important points that really made our research. The first one, let me start off by saying that we had 100 surveys. We completed 100 surveys, and from those 100 surveys, 52 identified as Black, 35 identified as white, and 13 identified as other. This other category includes Asian, Hispanic, and Indian. We just lumped them together. And then for gender, 52% of our participants were male and 48% were female. And the third demographic that was really important in our survey was their history about spanking.
Sure.
And 90% of our participants said that they were spanked, and surprisingly, only 10 said that they were not spanked.
Wow, that's interesting. So you surveyed 100 people and only 10 of your participants
Only 10.
had no history of spanking.
Yes.
Did that change your research?
Absolutely. It turned it to a complete different route.
Very interesting. So you've decided who you're going to study, and then the next thing that happens, Candace, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, as a group, we came up with a concisus for a research question that we wanted to go and find out. We wanted to find out the attitudes of college students who have not yet had kids and their attitudes on spanking as a form of discipline.
Sure.
So we went and some of our group members set up in the library to hand out surveys, others handed them out to classmates and others to friends. And before that, we handed out our surveys, we gave out a consent form telling our participants what we were doing, the purpose of our study, just kind of give them a little background information of what we were doing for our class. And so with our survey, we had a list of different demographics. We wanted to know their age. We wanted a range of 18 to 27 of college students who are not parents. So that kind of narrowed down our choice a little. We wanted to know their race, their gender, if they would use spanking as a form of discipline.
So when you decided to pick the 100 students, was it important that the sample look any certain way? Did you want a certain number of men and women, a certain number of each race, or how did that work?
At first, we wanted even 50 males and then 50 females, and race and gender. Well, race wasn't an important factor.
Race and gender were extremely variable in our research.
Perfect. So when you chose people up front in the library, I know that in research, there's a specific way that you decide how you're going to pick the people that you're researching. How did you do that? What was that like? Was that your sample? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Oh, absolutely. Well, let me tell you this to begin. We actually had a little bit of problems setting up in the library, but I'll get to that later. But initially, we just wanted 50 male and 50 female, as Candace has stated. However, we did not get that. As I said before, we only got 52 males and 48 females, which changed our hypothesis. I'll talk about that later. But we just set up in the library, we put a poster saying, hey, come take our surveys. We offered them an incentive, a candy bar, and so they did.
That sounds great. So now you guys, the other thing I'm curious about, when you created your survey, how did you decide what kind of questions? What did you do to beforehand to study spanking? Did you look at other research?
Ooh, that was a little challenging, but when it came down to it, I think we did a pretty good job on the survey. But we actually looked at other different surveys, and we got a lot of our ideas from there. If we first wanted to do the demographics, and at the end we did 4 scenarios that talked about if they decided to spank or not.
So you guys got some of that information from existing research.
Yes.
Sounds great. Well, ladies, we're going to have to take a commercial break right now. When we come back, I'm very interested to hear, and I know that Keaton and Tiana will be as well, what you found out about college students' attitudes about spanking. We'll be back after this break. And welcome back from commercial break. During our break, we brought on our couple, Keaton and Tiana. Welcome back. We, at the audience, and you were outside the stage listening, we heard our 2 sociology students gave us some information about how research works and what they were interested in. And now I'd like to talk to them a little bit about what they found out after they decided who and where and the things that they were going to ask. Candace, I'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about your result.
All right, so when we first did our research, we first hypothesized if you were spanked as a child, then you'd be in favor of spanking your own children as a form of discipline. But when it came to those results, we found that our sampling frame was not testable because he had a 90-10
Result.
result. Yes.
And that means that you had 90 people who were spanked.
And then 10 that were not.
And so with just 10 people that were not spanked, that simply wasn't, you weren't able to do your research.
Right, it was not testable at all for us to do that.
Very interesting.
And so we wanted to change our direction. So next we wanted to test, our control variable was gender. And then so with that hypothesis, we said that male and females would have different attitudes towards spanking. And so with that, we found that 52% of males and then 48% kind of viewed spanking as a form of discipline.
As a positive form of discipline, that's very
Yes.
interesting. So those numbers seem close. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so after that, we kind of ran a chi-square test to test those results to see if gender was a significant factor.
What did you find?
We got that 0.131 over 0.05 of our scale indicated that our results were not significant.
So men and women, that wasn't significant on their attitudes about spanking. That's very interesting. I'm sure that's interesting to you guys being here today. You probably thought that was, so what happened next?
Well, Kristen, you want to go from there?
So the third variable that we had was strenuous, and it was race that we thought that might have an effect on the attitudes. And once we ran the chi-square test, it was 0.003, which means that there's a significant relationship with race and the attitudes of spanking.
So you found that you weren't really able to look at spanking versus not spanking. You guys were both spanked, and you guys, then you found that gender didn't really matter. And so you guys, I think when I talked with you before the show, you had both felt that might be what was kind of your differences about Because I know you're both open to spanking, you both agree that spanking is a possibility, but you feel much more strongly about it, Tiana, is that correct?
Right, that's very correct.
Sure. Well, those are very interesting results. So race is a significant relationship in the way that people feel about spanking.
Yes, and it's interesting that we have this multi-race couple right here, and that our research said, hey, we have the race black said that, okay, we feel more strongly about spanking, and the others, which was white, said we don't feel that strongly.
Sure, so the numbers were significant for that they were similar in that agreeing about spanking, but one race felt more strongly about spanking. That is very interesting. Keaton, I'm curious, Tiana, I'm curious to see if any of this new information has changed your thoughts or feelings or your attitudes about spanking, or just talk to us a little bit about what you've learned. Or
It seems, throughout us all like figuring this out, seemingly race does play a major role in regards to the extent of passion directed towards the outlook of spanking.
Right.
So, and maybe that's due to our different influential developments during both of our upbringings. So we can't blame gender anymore, baby. Let's blame race.
well, I'm so glad that you guys are here today. I want to thank, first of all, Christian and Candace. Thank you for being here. Your research has been fascinating.
Thank you.
And you guys, thank you for being here. I appreciate your time, and we will see you next week on Sociology Today, when we'll be talking about, do athletes who participate in contact sports show higher levels of aggression? See you all then.
On Sociology Today, behind the scenes.